It was a cold October night in 2014. Ryan Hale, a truck driver, had to take a road through a remote forest about 25 miles outside the small town of Cold Hollow, Montana. It was a narrow, winding highway that ran right along the mountains, with a dense, dark forest on one side and a steep drop on the other. A thick, occasional fog would roll in, covering the air and making the road almost invisible. Very few people ever used this road at night, but tonight, Ryan had no choice. Ryan had lost his wife 3 years ago, and with his son away at college, most of his nights were spent alone in the quiet cab of his truck. That night, his work had ended late, and he was tired. He just wanted to get home. So, he decided to take the shortcut, the very road that everyone else avoided. It was around 11:30 p.m. The air bit at his skin, so cold that frost was already beginning to form on the corners of his windshield. The road ahead was completely empty, a black ribbon disappearing into the darkness. Ryan turned on the heater and the radio, and an old country song began to play softly. A small comfort in the vast emptiness. Everything was quiet. A little too quiet. Suddenly, the radio cut out. All that was left was static, a harsh hiss that sounded like someone was whispering just out of earshot. Ryan frowned, figuring the signal must have dropped in the mountains. He tried changing the channel, but the same strange, whispering static continued on every single frequency. "Damn stupid radio," he muttered, reaching to turn it off. Then, right in the middle of the road ahead, something moved. Ryan slammed on the brakes. The massive truck skidded, its tires screaming against the asphalt as smoke billowed up. There, caught in his headlights, a figure stood in the fog. It was a woman, standing stock still in the middle of his lane. She was wearing a thin white jacket. Her hair was a mess, and her head was bowed down. Ryan's heart began to race. Oh God. At this hour, he whispered to himself. He didn't get out of the truck. He just watched through the windshield, his hands gripping the steering wheel. The woman didn't move. Then, very slowly, she lifted her head. Half of her face was hidden by the shifting fog, but her eyes were completely black, like deep, empty pits with no light inside them. A cold dread washed over Ryan. His first instinct was to throw the truck into reverse and get out of there. But a strange, inexplicable curiosity held him frozen in place. He rolled down his window just a crack and shouted into the cold night, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" There was no answer. Only a voice that seemed to ride on the wind, a faint whisper that said, "Don't go back." Ryan froze solid. "What? What did you say?" he shouted again, his voice trembling. But the woman simply turned and started walking away, disappearing into the dark, dense forest at the side of the road. Without really thinking, Ryan took his foot off the brake and let the truck roll forward. He had to see what was going on. Just a little farther down the road, he saw it. A small car was overturned on the shoulder, its windows shattered and its doors hanging open. "E pude ver," his headlights illuminating the wreck. Using the flashlight on his phone, he carefully approached the car and peered inside. Blood was splattered across the dashboard and the seats, but there was no one there. And then he saw it. Lying on the driver's seat was a woman's jacket, the exact same white jacket the woman on the road had been wearing just moments ago. Ryan's hands started to tremble. He stumbled back from the car, a feeling of immense pressure building in his chest, as if something was pressing down on his throat. He fumbled for his phone, trying to call 911, but there was no signal, no network at all. A deep, unnerving silence surrounded him, broken only by the sound of leaves rustling in the dark woods. Suddenly, he heard a sound. It came from inside his own truck. Click, 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 click. He whipped around, shining his phone's flashlight into the cab. There was no one there. The cab was empty, but then, the flash from the phone's camera flickered once, all by itself. Then, silence again. Panic finally took over. He sprinted back to his truck, clumped inside, and slammed the locks. He sat there, gasping for air, his heart pounding against his ribs. The radio suddenly crackled back to life, but this time it wasn't static. It was a clear, calm woman's voice, and it said, "He's behind you. Ryan's head snapped around to look at the back of his cab. Nothing. No one. Then, his eyes darted to the rearview mirror, and he saw something moving. A shadow, walking slowly through the fog, getting closer and closer to his truck. That was Italiano. Ryan roared the engine to life and slammed his foot on the accelerator. The truck lurched forward, gaining speed. The road was ending soon. Just one more sharp turn and he'd be back on the main highway. But the fog was getting thicker. So thick it was almost blinding. He knew this road. He knew one wrong turn here could send him plunging straight down the cliff. He slowed down just slightly, his eyes desperately trying to pierce the white curtain in front of him, and then he heard it again, right beside his ear. Click, click. His eyes shot to the rearview mirror, and he saw someone sitting in the back seat. He couldn't see a face, only two eyes, sparkling for a split second in the reflection of his camera's flash. Ryan screamed and slammed on the brakes. The truck slid sideways, careening off the road and crashing head-on into a massive tree. Everything went black. The next morning, local police found the wrecked truck. The engine was cold. The doors were wide open, but there was no trace of Ryan Hale. The only thing they found was an old digital camera left on the dashboard. It contained 3 photos. The first was of the overturned car on the side of the road. The second was a photo of Ryan's own face, twisted in absolute terror. And the third was a picture of a strange woman in a white jacket, smiling directly at the camera. When the police checked the camera's files, the metadata showed that all 3 photos were taken at exactly 11:46 p.m., the same time that Ryan had tried and failed to call 911. Even today, people in Cold Hollow avoid that stretch of road after dark. They say that sometimes, if you're out there on a foggy night, you can see a dim light appearing and disappearing in the trees. And if you listen very, very closely, you might still hear a faint sound carried on the wind. Click, click. That was today's story. If you want more real and terrifying stories like this one, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Thanks for listening, and stay safe out there.